Zero, Prairie Orthopedic and Plastic Surgery, where healing begins.
When something breaks, you want someone you can trust to fix it right. Empire Repair is now open in Waverly and ready to serve our community with reliable auto repair and maintenance. From routine service to bigger repairs, our team is here to keep you on the road. Stop by Empire Repair in Waverly or call 402-786-2224 to schedule your service today. Empire Repair, proud to serve Waverly.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
This isn't any regular heat. This is nuclear heat. Live from the 93.7 The Ticket studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. Bringing you the latest from the Square Circle on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here is your host, Jake Bockoven.
Yes, welcome in the Nuclear Heat here on 93.7 The Ticket. I'm Jake Bockoven, host of your show here at Nuclear Heat, alongside my tag team partner, Nuclear Heat contributor, Augie Pena. Augie, it has been a fantastic week, at least as far as wrestling fans go. They've been looking forward to it. We've got plenty to break down as far as WrestleMania Night 1 and now Night 2 in the books. I think for a lot of wrestling fans, Night 2 might have saved WrestleMania, the experience for them. Night 1 definitely had its share of talk online about what could have done better. So we'll dive into all of that, Night 1 and Night 2 of WrestleMania, and of course a few thoughts from SmackDown as well. But just overall, as you wait for it, it's kind of funny, even it's the Super Bowl, whatever it is, you have these the excitement of like the utmost, most fun like memories that you have of it. And then you get to it, and maybe it doesn't always live up to it. Yeah. But what were your overall overarching thoughts on WrestleMania this year?
Man, it's such a mixed reaction. I think it's WrestleMania, so it's kind of really hard to mess up, right? But at the same time, like you said, the expectations are it's the best wrestling, best show, best premium live event, whatever you want to call it, that they put on every year. And Night 1, I think, was just such a letdown. There were good matches, fun matches, but the fact that they didn't let any match go over like 9 minutes, Liv, Stephanie, that has been building like a blood feud, and that was a 7-minute match. Like, how do you do something like that? So Night 1, I think was rough, and I would give it like a 4 or 5 out of 10. And tonight was a little bit better. I thought just the matches in general, a couple of them went a little bit longer. That main event, I thought, kind of really made up for it. So I'd give it like a 7 out of 10. But overall, it's still WrestleMania. It's still fun. But I felt like if they're going to do what they did for 2 nights, they might as well have it for 1 night, right? Like 6 hours. That's what they used to do, right? You could do from 4 to 10. Boom. You have a WrestleMania Saturday. And I don't know, it felt different. It just didn't feel like a real WrestleMania. And I know we're talking about this year, but I'm not even looking forward to next year because it's in Saudi Arabia. This year was in Las Vegas and it performed like this. I'm kind of worried about the trend of what we're about to see happen to our beloved WrestleMania. Yeah,
that'll definitely be interesting when it gets there. I think one thing that at least usually we see from overseas crowd is that the crowd is into it. I think that hurt WrestleMania a little bit this year.
Yeah.
So maybe that could help. Of course, there's a lot of travel issues for the American fan there in that. So, I mean, there's plenty to kind of break down there. Also, the time difference. I'm not sure what time WrestleMania will be on for us here stateside next year either. So, yeah, it's quite a ride. Wrestling, it always is. And WrestleMania is as well. The build-up to this year's WrestleMania was very interesting. John Cena even kind of acknowledging mixed reaction to the buildup.
Yeah.
But I think they did have a lot of like good names, big names on the marquee, fighting each other in feuds that seemingly mattered. Again, every different fan would have their different choice of where you maybe would have tweaked things or changed things along the way. But it made for an entertaining card. And if nothing else, at least hopefully people were entertained between the ads and such that went on there. Now, a lot of it too was that night one was more of a lot of celebrities involved this year, a lot more in night one than night two. So if you're kind of more of a traditional wrestling fan as well, I think maybe you'd get a little bit more into night two. Lil Yachty was out there tonight, but as opposed to, Pat McAfee and, everybody else that Jelly Roll, just list out all the celebrities that were involved last night. I think that maybe made a little bit of the difference tonight, but also just the performances in the ring, I think, were a little bit better. Obviously had a lot to go through. So let's go ahead and go through it. Let's start with Paul Heyman's real main event, is what he called it, because I think that might be among the more interesting storylines coming out of this. Obafemi against Brock Lesnar. And one of the main topics also of this WrestleMania is that it was finally on ESPN, which is crazy. I mean, you think about telling yourself that 20, 10, 15 years ago, I mean, like, my goodness, what will people think? Now, obviously, cable has changed, streaming has kind of changed things, and ESPN's already gone off on some of their other adventures and what they've done over the years. So it's not all as serious sports maybe as it used to be. So that's a little bit different. But how about the mainstream? WrestleMania making it to the mainstream audience?
That's, it was fine. I actually watched it all on my Hulu Live TV because I have Hulu Plus. So there was an actual channel that I just stayed on the whole time.
Okay.
It was in between ESPN and ESPN2. And I was like, is this going to show it the whole time? And it did. But kind of like what you said, I'm paying like $100 a month, because I have Hulu Plus, but it comes with all the extra stuff. So I'm paying the price of that, right? And then Netflix, and I'm glad they went away from Peacock, or else I'd be paying for 3 different streaming services. But yeah, it's ESPN has kind of been venturing out, in the WWE, and I watch a lot of sports segments throughout the week, on ESPN, and WWE wrestlers are on there all the time. It's always a segment, so it's it's kind of hard to believe because we know what WWE is, right? It's scripted, all that stuff, and then you have them talking about it like it's so that's fun. But yeah, I never thought we'd really get to that, because like you said, wrestling isn't for everybody, right? So growing up, sometimes if you were a wrestling fan at points, you were kind of the odd kid out, and now wrestling is looked at, on the same level of the NFL, NBA, MLB, things like that. So yeah, it's a different time. I think wrestling is really mainstream now, right? It's kind of the way to say it. So yeah, that's good. But like I said, I'm still paying a pretty penny to be able to keep up with all those. So, but I'm glad you were able to watch it all right. You were able to kind of get that going.
Yeah, well, I have YouTube TV, which for some reason them and ESPN Plus, whatever, the app still isn't going to work with that. So I had to pay like $30 to get to it. So it took me a second to make the transition, but it is really interesting. And in WWE, if you still look at like on ESPN.com, they've got like a WWE page or whatnot, and it gets updated every like 3 weeks or something. So it's not, it's not necessarily maybe at the same level of the sports, but they've got money tied into it now. So it is maybe I'll be interested to see kind of what the overall views are from it. But again, we'll dive into WrestleMania Night 2 first. We'll go back on WrestleMania Night 1 since WrestleMania Night 2 is a little bit fresh in our minds, and kind of the hot topic now. And then again, we could circle back to WrestleMania Night 1. But I thought it was very smart to start off specifically on ESPN. I was interested in what they kind of did. And again, you talk about kind of differences between Night 1 and Night 2. I thought it was odd to have the unsanctioned match on ESPN leading into it, only because maybe you're limited in what you can do as far as unsanctioned matches on actual television. And so we didn't get any blood out of that or anything. And we can get to that later. But again, I think that it made all the sense in the world to have Obafemi and Brock Lesnar aboard, because Brock Lesnar is probably, to a sports fan, the most noticeable or wrestler that WWE has right now. So started with him. So people just kind of tuning in, maybe holding over from whatever was on before, might recognize that and kind of stick around. But this was obviously interesting. Obafemi had got the better of Brock Lesnar coming into the match. They're kind of telling the story of, kind of being the first one to be able to kind of bully Brock Lesnar around. I didn't catch anything pre-match about retirement. There was a lot of talk about when that might happen. For instance, at SummerSlam is going to be in Minneapolis, so kind of we're tied to Brock Lesnar. There's a thought that that could be the spot. But Obafemi ends up defeating Brock Lesnar, kind of manhandling for him for the most part. Now, Brock obviously got in his shots, but this was a quick match, which that was a theme from night one.
Yep.
This was a quick match. I think that just felt like it was just getting going. Now, these are two, again, big guys, throw big moves, try to sell, throughout wrestling history. You kind of do that with the bigger guys, is usually have shorter matches. One, because of their own energy, they're going to get tired. But two, again, just to sell that their bigger, badder moves are kind of more impactful. And so that's what they did here. And ultimately, Obafemi beats Brock Lesnar. But it was, and that obviously was the right move. Put over the new guy, especially, again, in front of an audience that might just be tuning in. But the surprise was Brock Lesnar took off his gloves and took off his shoes and what they do traditionally in wrestling when it's your final match. And it would make sense storyline wise, even though they didn't mention it, that Brock Lesnar, who had never kind of been beaten like that, would lay it down. Like maybe he's met his match.
Yeah, it was very surprising. And, you saw a side of Brock you never seen before. It looked like he was going to cry. He kind of held it back, I think, because he realized who he was, but just selling that, I was shocked. Like, when he's just sitting there and they're panning, I'm like, he's not doing this. I was like, he's going to fake us out. And then he does it. So that, I don't know, because that also ties into, as we talk behind, not just this, but the Gunther situation, right? Gunther's doing this, what everybody assumed, because he wanted to be the one that retired Brock Lesnar later on this year, doing that favor against Seth Rollins for Paul Heyman. But that didn't happen. And I don't know. I'll say this: WrestleMania, that's supposed to be your night. If you're gonna have two nights of it, one, we're on at 9:00 and it's already over. Like that, that says something. But two, your matches have to be 10, 15 minutes, right? You got to let these storylines have a good conclusion there. And while I enjoyed the very short 4 minutes that we got of this match, and like you said, Oba was, Brock got his things in, Oba won, all that stuff. It just, I don't know. That's the way Brock Lesnar's gonna go out. This huge storyline where he kind of looked like he was having fun. He was finally putting somebody over, right? Which you hear about. He doesn't do a whole lot. He's always kind of been the beast. He gets kind of manhandled for a month leading into this, and then his last match is 4 minutes, and he got choke slammed and power bomb, which was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know, that it's kind of like John Cena tapping out, right? Like not passing out. It's kind of just disappointing, because that's how. And I'm not a huge fan of Brock Lesnar anymore, everything like that. But still, you remember everything, and you're like, this is how he goes out, 4 minutes, and that's it.
Yeah, and again, I think, if it is Brock Lesnar's final match, I think, again, you might have kind of different opinions on him, but there's just something about his music hitting when you don't expect it, and it just turns the energy in the room to like, oh boy, this is like, it gets serious. The star power goes up. He goes out there and generally manhandles whoever is kind of over at the time, or a group of folks that are in the ring, whatever it might be. And so I think they're, definitely would miss Brock Lesnar if this is indeed it. And again, I think this is a way to do it. Maybe if you would have put the stakes on that from the beginning, it would have, got a little bit more attention. We don't know what they're going to do. Maybe this is just the start of a story that it will end up with him retiring at a different point. But if you're going to do the retirement story, and again, this is like the one match I think everybody's looking forward to, and nobody's going to have a problem with the way that it's booked. But if it ends with a Brock Lesnar retirement, then it gets frustrating, because then why not Gunther? Especially when Gunther didn't have an opponent. You threw him together with Rollins. Again, I think Rollins and Gunther, Oba and Brock, two of the best matches on the WrestleMania card. So I don't sound like too nitpicky. And because everybody's got an opinion on these things, but it's just like the flow of what would have made more sense and maybe been a little bit bigger of a moment in WrestleMania history certainly would have been Gunther, who had already retired three legends, with the chance to retire Brock Lesnar. I mean, that is not Paul Heyman's main event. That's the main event. So it is a bit odd. You might have two heels working with, you'd have to like turn one of them right, obviously. But I don't know if this is not a prolonged retirement or kind of the beginning. And that's what I was waiting for, is like when he was walking down the ramp, when he was putting, I was like, is Gunther going to come attack? Is this where you at least, tease it, and then we get the opportunity to move forward with it. But again, Obafemi, a star is made. They did that, so they did accomplish that coming out of it. But again, it's just a lot of this too. It has been the frustration for wrestling fans. It's just the lack of kind of keeping that long-term storytelling together and making it all kind of interweave and make sense, which I think wrestling's at its best when it does that. This year, they kind of threw a lot of that out last minute before WrestleMania. And then even as you see the finished product, you can just go, man, they could have tied these things together a little bit better.
Yeah. And, you were speaking kind of the longevity of it. We have so many feuds that take forever and don't end. This was one after WrestleMania. I was like, I could see this going. This is maybe one I wanted to see more of. And the way they portray it, this is probably one of the few that is ending right here. Because let's say, the whole Gunther thing, Gunther gets mad or whatever and keeps calling out Brock Lesnar. Well, that kind of devalues that match if that happens, right? Because Brock will have been coming out of retirement essentially to get retired. That just doesn't make sense. So you're right. You threw that kind of all away. And but I just, it is great. If he did, he retired Brock Lesnar. But in this match, they didn't even include Paul Heyman. They didn't make it seem like, this life and death, thing like that. They didn't do that. So I don't know. The buildup. What Brock came out like a month ago and said he's challenging. So there was just no, this was like the natural, perfect buildup to just a good feud, right? Like a fun WrestleMania match. You put over Omafebi. You kind of have Brock maybe be a thorn, for a little bit. But like you said, for it to be possibly his final retirement match, and you don't mention that at all, that would have ascended, I think, Oba even more, right?
Yeah.
That. I mean, you retired, and then maybe you have a clash of Oba Gunther, right? The two guys that are retiring people. And then Gunther's maybe mad that he wanted to. You could have done all this stuff, but I don't know. I just TKO, Triple H. I don't know who you want to pin it on. It just really feels like they rush things. And I know there's a lot of injuries and things like that, but it's like they rush things and just didn't, for some reason on this one, didn't long-term story plan it. Like you said, it's every other, you have AJ Becky, that are going on for years, all that stuff. But this one, the most perfect storyline you had, most perfect match, just, and it's still fun, right? But 4 minutes, Brock's retirement, a lot of head scratchers at the end of it.
Yeah. And like you said, maybe I think that's a pretty good idea. Is maybe if you're going to use this and continue the story, maybe Oba versus Gunther next would certainly be very entertaining. But we'll see what they do there. We go from that to the 6-man tag team match. Seemingly brought to you by Mortal Kombat too, which I love Mortal Kombat, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yep.
Penta even came out with like a Shao Kahn type of headgear, which is pretty cool. But of course, this was between Penta, JD McDonough, Rey Mysterio, Dragon Lee, Javon Evans, and Rusev. And this got the crowd going. I mean, there were a lot of really good, as you can do with these ladder matches, a lot of good ladder spots. And the level of athleticism in this, outside of Rusev, who kind of brought the power to the match, allowed them to do a lot. And I saw some people really impressed. Javon Evans definitely had a few spots that really helped him. Rey Mysterio. The one thing I would say is Rey Mysterio, Dragon Lee, and Penta all were wearing red, which was kind of strange. I don't know if they choreographed that or not. But all the luchadors were wearing red, that was a little confusing.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up. I had a hard time figuring out who was who. Dragon Lee didn't have a shirt on. Penta has like a tail thing, and Ray just has a plain mask. But you could not tell who was who at times, and that was like the most confusing part of it all. So that I noticed that a lot too. That theme there, and I thought, you guys could have maybe dressed up a little bit differently there.
Yeah. So that was a little bit different, but it still worked out. I think it was still a great match, considering the talent that they had involved. And it was just kind of thrown together here, leading up to this. Didn't have a big storyline either, coming into it. Of course, Rey Mysterio was added late, but Penta ends up retaining. We've been talking about Penta, giving him a belt and getting him going. His initial run with this belt was just kind of like, of course it took it off Dom, but it was more the story that it was taken off Dom than given to Penta. I think this kind of refreshes it, allows it to be Penta's belt, and his title run kind of gets a little bit more interesting from here.
No, yeah, I agree. It was a good showcase. I thought it was great for everybody. Like you said, it was just fun. This is why every year everybody wants a ladder match at WrestleMania, right? Because it could just be fun. Even Rusev, he was high flying, at points. Javon Evans hit his move, off of Rusev and things like that. But yeah, it made Penta look strong. He took out 5 other competitors. Like you said, this was kind of a perfect get the crowd going. I thought this maybe could have been the opener too, just kind of get it going. So I thought they get it right on these first 2 matches. And Penta retaining, that's good, because we talked about forever, Penta needs to do something. So, them having him go in there. Yeah, I thought it was a good time. And man, I love ladder matches. That was perfect. Perfection, I thought, by everybody in that match.
And it was just cool too, because I outside of, I guess anybody could have won that match, right? There wasn't like an obvious choice. And so, everybody kind of had their moment. I thought maybe even JD McDonough could have won that thing to give the Judgment Day a little bit more oomph to him, but with Finn Balor, of course, leaving the group. Again, they decided to go with Penta. But yeah, even the guys that would be the least favorite still had a shot in that match. So that's what made it entertaining as well. We then saw Trick Williams against Sami Zayn. The crowd still not knowing what quite to do with Sami Zayn. Of course, Trick Williams, they know what to do with the whoop that trick chance. And this whole feud's been interesting because the crowd has been kind of pushing Sammy Hogan, as we call him, to be a heel and getting behind Trick Williams. And so Trick Williams kind of still technically the heel, but the crowd was happy to see him defeat Sammy with a little help from Lil Yachty. No gingerbread man appearance, unfortunately, after SmackDown. I thought that was kind of entertaining going into the weekend, but they decided to keep that on SmackDown.
Yeah, and I think that was a good idea to do there. Like you said, kind of the less gimmicks you have, unless it's like a Saint, unless the match calls for it. But this is another thing. Why'd you take the belt off Carmelo Hayes then? If Sammy was just going to lose the belt right away to Trick Williams, 2 weeks later at WrestleMania, Carmelo Hayes got robbed. He and Ilya Dragunov.
Yeah.
This could have been a 4-way match. This could have been something. Nope. You have Sami Zayn, and it was a fun match. Don't get me wrong. I thought they did a good job. Like for everything, I'm kind of would consider myself maybe a Sami Zayn hater right now, just because of the push, right? The way Sammy Hogan and everything. But you didn't need to do that, or involve Carmelo Hayes. But hey, Trick Williams got it now. Once again, he's a guy that has a very fun entrance. I like it, but we'll see if it gets as overused as kind of the Jey Uso, the Yeet does there.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because that title has specifically kind of been the workman's title / kind of like, hey, let's put on an impressive match.
Yeah.
Like you said, with Carmelo Hayes and Ilya Dragunov and Sammy Ford, it was just kind of, this is going to be the match of the night every night. And Trick is kind of the opposite of that. Not that he's can't, perform in the ring, but he's probably not going to steal your in-ring performance like match of the night type of thing, week in and week out. And he's not going to, you're not going to put on matches that have 3 breaks in between them like they've done to the other guys. So it's a little bit of shift in the belt as well.
Yeah, it is. And I think this, because Dragunov had it for the first half of the year, and then Carmelo, and then Sammy got it. So yeah, we'll see. Because I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't think Trick Williams is going to be a guy that has an open challenge every week for this.
Yeah.
So, and that's something on SmackDown I like. I like seeing new guys get opportunities, but Trick Williams is a new guy. He's a guy that, he's been on the roster for maybe even not even a year. But he's impressive. The guy's like 6'4", 6 something like, like that. And he can do some great stuff. But yeah, I think unfortunately we've seen the end of those United States Open title matches on.
We'll see. I'm excited to see, like you said, what they do with him next. And a lot of the new guys for me, part of the reason I kind of get frustrated, like a Lyra Valkyria winning in and get everything handed to her, is just kind of like, you have to build your way up, and I want to see that, go through that. And this is naturally doing it, right? Right. The U.S. Belt is a mid-card belt, and so that kind of helps him in that. But he's just got such a presence. He's got the crowd in the palm of his hand.
Yep.
He's not backing down. As far as like kind of the acting skills and the broad bravado that he brings to the ring. So he's a guy that they can hotshot, and they certainly have, along with Obafemi, in these first couple of matches. Then after that tonight, we saw Finn Balor and Dominic Mysterio. If you love entrances, this was great for entrances. Dom Mysterio kind of came out being carried on, I don't even know what I'd call that thing, a throne maybe of sorts of luchadors. He considers himself the king of luchadors. but was taken back by Finn Balor coming out as the Demon. I don't know if he didn't watch any of the promos or anything like that, but that had been let out that Finn Balor was going to do that. As usual, you got to do something a little bit different. There seemed to be more blue in the Demon paint this time than usual. And he had a blue, like one blue and one red eye contact. So a little bit different look for him. But this was just a great match as far as in-ring and storytelling, because the Demon, of course, is Finn Balor's alter ego, and it's tough to keep him down. Down through everything at him, multiple chair shots after hitting 619s and frog splashes, and just, you know, and it was fun because Finn Balor at one point after all of that just kicked out at 1, didn't even wait till 3 as the Demon character. And so, I mean, I naturally, these are two of my favorite characters, so maybe I just enjoyed it more because of that. But for what it was, and, you know, they didn't have a belt on again. I thought maybe they could have kept that all along to heighten the importance of this match. They decided not to do that, but this worked, and I thought it was very entertaining, very exciting.
Yeah, no, this was, you know, I would have loved it to be a little bit longer, you know, obviously, but I thought it was great. And I just got to ask, is WrestleMania now known as a no disqualification? Because chairs, tables, you know, every match kind of had that. And all the ref would do was kind of yell and tell everybody to stop, but no disqualifications happened. Like this one, they used chairs and tables and everything. And I don't remember it being, you know, unsanctioned or a street fight. But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. And I'm glad, you know, Finn Balor getting the win, the Demon. That's great, you know, because that's what you do, right? On that, you don't have the Demon lose after 3 years, but I also think this storyline can continue, right? Because you have more Judgment Day members that kind of JD McDonough, things like that. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I just love seeing the Demon after 3 years. You know, he was saying he'd never bring him back, and he did. And like you said, I wish it wouldn't have been, you know, revealed to us, and it would have been a surprise. But you know, I'll take it for what it was.
Yeah, it was really good. Now the question for him is, you know, what's next? Because you know, he had throughout his singles career gotten to a point where they sent him down to NXT to kind of carry that brand. Got back with the Judgment Day. That's been carrying him for quite some time. But if you're going to have him now break off and / have the Demon card kind of in his back pocket, kind of refreshes him. We'll see what they do there. I would love a Judgment Day, an OG Judgment Day reunion, which they've somewhat been teasing. And I think, you know, Damian Priest and R-Truth already together. Rhea won the world title tonight. Probably won't happen. Obviously, you've got also the history between Finn Balor and Damian Priest there. But I think that could be pretty entertaining if that's what they decide to do. I'm just a little bit worried because they have lost Finn Balor's character last time he was single, so as a single star. So we'll see what they do there. I mentioned right there, Rhea Ripley defeated Jade Cargill. Good match. It's kind of funny. I'm interested in your thoughts here because who needed this win? Jade Cargill, way more than Rhea Ripley. At the same time, I don't know if it was the wrong choice because you also need your company to be strong and you need a believable champ. And Jade Cargill looks the part, right? That's kind of been the talk of this feud. But maybe just is missing the in-ring ability to get there as of yet. And this was, I think, one of her better matches. They brought, of course, Mia Yim, known as Michin now. Michin and B-Fab were there to try to get Jade Cargill the upper hand. Io Sky comes out, counteracts, allows Rhea Ripley to reverse Jade Cargill's finisher and hit the Riptide for the win. And then Rhea, of course, finished up. That was funny. Said, I got the championship and the girl. She was holding Io Sky. So their friendship continues there. Obviously could have had more for Io Sky here in Mania. There might have been more an opportunity there. But what are your thoughts here? Because I think Jade Cargill needed the win, or are you just kind of happy her reign is over?
She need both. She needed it, but at the same time, I mean, when they're doing promos, you know, before WrestleMania and all that stuff, Rhea gets this huge, you know, pop. You know, when they're doing their promos, their stills of entering, and then they have Jade. Jade got boos and like no reactions, right? And that's how it's kind of been on SmackDown. So I think it's time. I think you tried it out. Maybe try it again. Have her do a mid card. You know, maybe do that. Do it that way, because I thought she did fine in this match. I thought this was one of her better matches. You know, surprisingly, with how the buildup and everything was, this was like the match I was not interested in, but I watched and I was like, okay, you know, that wasn't bad. But you're right. You know, she needed it, but I mean, Rhea's the right choice, and I'm excited to see Rhea on SmackDown. I don't think we've seen her on SmackDown, right, since she in a while.
Yeah.
And now she's the champion there, and you got Tiffany Stratton, who also was not on the card. You know, you have other other challengers that could be there and make it kind of exciting.
Yeah, freshen it up. So that'll be exciting what they have next there. Then we had, we'll finish on this before we get to the main event of night one in the next segment. I was so much looking forward to what they were going to do with Danhausen. I started to get worried they weren't going to do anything with him. He's kind of the fun new thing in WWE. This looked like it was written right from Vince. They had mini Danhausens show up, and ended up being this was, of course, so I should set it up this way. John Cena was out there kind of giving he's hosting WrestleMania this year, so he's giving the whole speech and all that. Miz and Kit Wilson come out, and then Danhausen comes out. So all these mini Danhausens come out, and he comes out in the Danhausen mobile, and I was just kind of waiting for something. I don't know if they kind of got what they needed to. Ultimately, Kit Wilson attacked one of the miniature Danhausens, all of them ganged up on Kit Wilson, and then Danhausen hit Miz below the belt. And if there's one thing masked men below the belt, what else do we have? There's just things that just keep showing up, themes in every match and seemingly every night. I talk about how they overdo the brawls. There's a lot of stuff they overdo. Shots below the belt was one of it. So it was interesting. I was a little bit disappointed in Danhausen. It's kind of funny because I've loved every part of Danhausen except for his debut and his WrestleMania, which is so strange to put it that way. But I've also kind of thought all throughout it too, Danhausen in ring, and they've done a little bit with it. I think that's got to be sparingly, so I think like some of the stuff that they did in the in ring leading up to this was probably better than what they had ready for WrestleMania. A debut of Danhausen was some of the stuff that they did. What was that on SmackDown a couple of weeks ago or whatever? I think that would have probably been better served than this. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Were you entertained?
It was funny, like you said, but you got to get the Miz involved, right? John Cena. You had to have a segment with them, and you knew Danhausen wasn't scheduled for a match, so I thought it was fine. But I'm gonna tell you the truth. My all-time Danhausen favorite WrestleMania wasn't him. It was his blip that he had night one. The big air balloon or whatever he had. That was Danhausen. I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, like they had it during commercials and things like that, but his big face and a big blip just in the arena, just kind of floating throughout the whole thing. They called it like the Dowsen blip or whatever,
That's
you call
awesome,
it.
Yeah.
So it was great, but that's what it is. He's kind of an R-Truth character, right? So, I agree with you. His in his matches, have it like every 3 months or something like that. But these promos I thought was fine. I was expecting him to go out there and curse everybody, John Cena, all that stuff. Then I thought that would have been hilarious for John Cena's acting career, and things like that. But yeah, I thought it was fine. You knew he was going to do something. And let's be honest, WWE, there's really nothing they can do, that surprises me from now on. So I kind of thought, this kind of is perfectly in line with what they do with Danhausen.
Well, and I'm glad they got him out there. And I'm glad I'm a big Kit Wilson fan now. So we'll get to that a little bit later too. Honestly, when we bring up Liv Morgan's new song, because I think she should just sing Kit Wilson's song and they'd be much better over. That new pop song's not it.
No, not at all. That's bad. I thought it was a joke when they showed it on Friday. Was it Friday night?
Yeah,
Debuted it, and then she actually came out to it. And stick to wrestling, Liv. I'm sorry.
There's a lot of things you got to try out in wrestling. Not all of them work. Hopefully they just feel like, okay, that was a WrestleMania thing. Let's move on from that.
They better.
We'll see how it goes. Because, I think that's going to bring her star factor down more than bring it up, which was obviously what they're hoping for. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. We'll be back and talk about the main event of night 2 and then jump into night 1 of WrestleMania.
At Parkview Animal Hospital in Lincoln, it's not just their professional care that sets them apart, but their warm staff and state-of-the-art facilities. Whether it's for a routine checkup or a comprehensive medical procedure, at Parkview, your pet isn't just another number, but a valued member of their caring family. Visit them at pahlincoln.com today and in person just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Parkview Animal Hospital, your pet, their passion for happier, healthier, furry friends. Select Plumbing and Utility has been serving Lincoln and the surrounding area for 14 years, and they're not slowing down. Select Plumbing and Utility handles all your plumbing needs, from faucets and water heaters to full renovations, and they can even help with your heating and cooling needs. They're also Lincoln's underground experts, repairing and replacing broken underground water and sewer lines since day one. Contact Select Plumbing and Utility today at 402-560-6197, assuring excellence in every situation, opportunity, and challenge. That's 402-560-6197.
If you're seeking a career with a growing company, Gaina Trucking and Excavating is hiring and looking for additions to their team. Gaina Trucking has a strong team culture, competitive pay, 401ks, and benefits like health, dental, and vision. Drivers are guaranteed 40 hours per week, even in the winter months, and are home every night. Start your career today at Gaina Trucking and Excavating. Apply today at gainatrucking.com.
Sandhills Global is growing right here in Lincoln. With our expanding campus and continued growth, we're hiring across a wide range of careers, from interns to experienced professionals. Join the team at Sandhills Global and build your career with competitive pay, great benefits, and real opportunities to grow. Visit sandhills.jobs to view openings and apply today. That's sandhills.jobs.
Spring is here, and it's time to wake up Judson. Judson Irrigation is eager and ready to get your sprinkler system up and running for the season. Judson's technicians will check for winter damage, adjust your sprinkler heads, and show you how to set your controller for effective sprinkling coverage. The Judson Irrigation team is here for you. Stay safe.
Keep summer green. Call Judson Irrigation 402-420-6277 or judsonirrigation.com.
When it comes to concrete, Stevens & Smith Construction doesn't stall. They go for the takedown. As Nebraska's full-service concrete contractor, they stay in bounds, hold inside position, and never forfeit quality. Whether it's foundations, flatwork, or concrete coatings, they elevate performance and pin down results that win every time. Stevens & Smith Construction is a proud sponsor of Takedown Tuesdays on 93.7 The Ticket. Because when it's time to wrestle with concrete, Stevens & Smith Construction slams expectations. Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym goers. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Concrete Industries has immediate job openings for precast production laborers and maintenance technicians. Concrete Industries offers great pay, health benefits, 401k, a wellness program, holidays, and paid time off. Apply today to earn a starting pay of $21.50 per hour plus a $1,500 hiring bonus. Concrete Industries is hiring all experience levels and offers on-the-job training. Start your career today as a precast production laborer or maintenance technician. Visit concreteindustries.com.
Mike, the insurance company wants us to replace the roof.
Wait, what? I thought everything was fine.
Yeah, it says right here our roof is too old and they won't be able to cover us anymore.
I guess it is 15 years old. Hi, I'm Austin with Roofing Service Company. We help homeowners with their roofing and siding projects. Financing options are available, and we can get you under a new roof no time at all. If this sounds like you, visit roofingservicecompany.com. That is roofingservicecompany.com.
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bockoven, on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We're back here on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket. I'm Jake Bockoven. He is Augie Payne, and we do this every Sunday night at 9 o'clock, but not every Sunday night do we have WrestleMania just having been on. So that's what we're working with tonight, WrestleMania Night 2. We pretty much recapped all of it except for Roman against CM Punk. So we'll do that and then jump back to night 1 and break down the action there. But maybe we talked about maybe match of the night, where to kind of pick and choose from there. The match of WrestleMania, I think, had to be Roman and CM Punk. I mean, these guys were exhausted by the end of it, and that even played into the finish. CM Punk was so exhausted after one GTS, he couldn't get to the second one. And Roman Reigns ultimately took advantage. This was after CM Punk had kind of done a frog splash on the announcers table on Roman Reigns. So, I mean, this was one where you could tell they were tired, both as performers and as being part of the story. Both each of them did each other's finisher, which again, another thing in wrestling they do quite a bit nowadays, which I think could be held off for moments like this to get a little bit more meaning behind it. But this was one, if you're a traditional wrestling fan, keep out all the no interference. It was just two of the best in the business slugging it out, and ultimately Roman Reigns coming on top, which I think is the right call. As we talk about some of the title changes that are there, it'll be very fun and very exciting to see what Roman does kind of next, because he feels like he doesn't feel like the big dog character, but he feels like the big dog of the company again here, obviously closing out WrestleMania as the champion.
Yeah, and like you said, this was, I think, the match of WrestleMania. I mean, it went on like 40 minutes, so that
a lot more time. Yeah.
That was a very good surprise. And, the near finishes, this is the way you end, your WrestleMania. I thought it was perfect. And you're right. When you think about all the things, Roman Reigns, he's still probably the most over wrestler. He's still got that, the bloodline, is still kind of that still there. He's seen as that. And I mean, he's going to be promoting Street Fighter, that comes out a day before my birthday this year. So I'm pretty excited. And they were hyping that movie up pretty high too, because it's got Cody Rhodes in it as well. So, now they have their WWE World Heavyweight Champ to go to those events, go around the world. What a best way. Once I kind of started realizing that, I was like, Roman Reigns is going to win this, isn't he? But I'm interested to see where they go with this moving forward, because CM Punk's obviously going to be around too. And they did a great job building up this, this storyline as well. These two acted like they really just didn't like each other last year. They had their WrestleMania match as well. So, I don't think you want to run it right back and have CM Punk, kind of try to go for it right away, because, the first challenger, it wouldn't be good there. But this was a great, kind of first chapter for them, to where SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, something like that, they can pick it up and be like, hey, let's do this again. Because like you said, I don't know if it was great storytelling, great wrestling, just fun, so you sell it like that, you can kind of just do this whenever you want to again.
Yeah. And we'll see too, because it's interesting. Both of them, not necessarily heel or face. I mean, I guess more face than heel, but with heelish tendencies at time. We saw that again, CM Punk, another low blow in this match at one point. We're distracting the referees. But again, he was probably closer to face than Roman.
Yeah.
And but I just love those characters, because you're just kind of riding along with their story, not necessarily feeling, okay, here's the good guy thing to do or the bad guy thing to do. And both of them get a crazy crowd reaction. So you kind of get that. But that's where it's interesting here, is there's thoughts about maybe getting the bloodline back together. Will that kind of transpire in the next couple of weeks? And are they going to be, as opposed to the first time, a face kind of group, right?
Yeah.
And then what would that mean when they go, for weekly programming and setting up everything moving forward? So we'll have to wait and see on all of that. But there's no shortage of exciting options with Roman and challengers coming his way.
Yeah, no, there's not. And I know like I mentioned, he's going to be promoting Street Fighter, all that stuff, but I hope he's a little bit more present, because I feel like you need him, because if we're going to be honest, WWE is kind of at a low. Would you say that? I mean, just story wise, we've talked about stars, things like that. You need a Roman Reigns. Now that you took the belt away from CM Punk to give to Roman Reigns, I think you need him on Raw a little bit more than he maybe has been. So, hey, if he shows up, twice a month, I think that's good. But he can't do the whole go away for 2 months, come back, act, because you need your champion there, and things like that. But yeah, I think that'd be fun. And, have Jimmy and Jay kind of be with him again, things like that. I think that'd be a great twist on it. Maybe some of the MFTs, because they're hopefully maybe done with their feud with the Wyatt Six.
Yeah, that's right.
Things like that. You have them maybe come around. And hey, you can kind of do the Bloodline 2.0, the real version. And I think that could, sell money again.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. We'll have more time to review night one of WrestleMania when we come back on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket.
Hey there, this is Paul Scheel, owner of High Electric. I want to thank our friends and loyal customers and introduce High Electric to those looking for a new electrician. We've been serving the Lincoln and Omaha area for over 30 years, from design to install, upgrades, and repair. If you are a homeowner or a small business needing some electrical work, call us at 402-466-6606 or check us out at hyelectric.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
Fans, are you craving the ultimate game day experience? Red Zone Sports Bar and Grill has your front row seat to all the action. Dive into delicious wings, juicy burgers, and ice-cold drinks, all served up with TVs covering every inch of the wall, so you'll never miss a play. Rally your crew, cheer on your team, and take advantage of game night specials every week. Stop in for a Nebraska basketball game with a party of 4 or more and receive a free pitcher of beer. Red Zone Sports Bar and Grill, right by the Lincoln Airport at 3111 Northwest 12th Street.
When you or someone you know has been seriously injured and you find yourself in need of an attorney, call Liberty Law Group. The attorneys at Liberty Law Group will fight for the justice you deserve in court to get the very best possible outcome. Trust the compassionate and hardworking attorneys at Liberty Law Group when you need an attorney in Nebraska or Iowa. Call them today at 877-404-5238. That's 877-404-5238. Or check them out online at libertylawgroup.com.
You started your business to build something special. Now it's time to grow and protect it. At Pinnacle Bank, our treasury management services help you do just that. Through smarter payment technology, account administration, and fraud protection. So no matter the size of your business, you can get the most out of your financial operations. Request your free consultation at pinbank.com/consult. Pinnacle Bank, the way banking should be. Member FDIC.
Lincoln is full of great golf courses in a state that is getting national recognition for exceptional golf. Friend Country Club is worth the drive, just 40 minutes from Lincoln and home to one of the state's most respected 9-hole courses. Enjoy their restaurant with popular items like a 14-ounce ribeye, 10-ounce sirloin, or chicken fried steak. Open Thursday through Saturday from 5:30 to 10 p.m. Expand your horizons with a trip to Friend Country Club, just 40 minutes southwest of Lincoln. It's worth a visit.
Looking for something fun tonight? Axe throwing, local beer, and great vibes are waiting at Arbor Axe House. From casual nights out to celebrations and team events, it all starts here. Reserve a lane today at arbораxe.com. Arbor Axe House at the corner of N Street and Antelope Valley.
This is Jordy Ball for Anderson Ford. For years, Anderson has relied on an exceptional customer experience. But just this once, they're going to rely on a really great pitch.
Right now, lease a 2026 Ford F-150 for $197 per month for 36 months.
Experience better at Anderson Ford.
Stock number 1008753 at $199 per month, lease for 36 months with approved credit, 7,500 miles per year, 10,252 at signing, no security deposit required, tax, title, and license fees extra, residency restrictions apply. Program subject to change. Must take new retail delivery from Anderson Auto Group by 4/30/26.
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bockoven on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Thanks for joining us here on Nuclear Heat. We've got about 11 minutes to go through night one. We went through night 2 of WrestleMania. We'll have to go a little bit quicker for our night 1 recap here, but that's okay because people didn't like night 1.
Nope, not at all. We're gonna go longer than any match did night 1, so we got
That's right. That's right. We got more time for that. Start off with the Vision and IShow Speed against the Usos in LA Knight. LA Knight did come out in a truck, so that was cool. But that's about as much as he was highlighted. This was a match to highlight IShow Speed and the fact that he has been working on his wrestling skills. So as you said, I mean, a lot of talent in here, not a lot of time to show it off. So very kind of strange that's who they highlighted out of everything. But he's a celebrity. This was on ESPN. So that's what it was. It is what it is sometimes in wrestling. IShow Speed, at least according to the Vision, cost them the match. So then, therefore, Logan Paul turns on him. The good guys help get Paul over to the announcer's table, and a frog splash from IShow Speed gets his kind of second big moment in wrestling, other than being speared by Braun Breaker. So, yeah, I mean, this one, again, you come out of it. I don't know if IShow Speed's going to be on weekly television moving forward, but at least you've got the wrestling rub on him now.
Yeah, he's like one of the most biggest streamers in the world, YouTubers, Twitch, whatever you want to call it. And he's super athletic. I mean, he, that frog splash off, onto the table, Logan Paul, was fun and just all comedy. And I also want to say, hey, my boy LA Knight got the pin. All right. He pinned Austin Theory. He did something there, but you're totally right. This was for IShow Speed. And when I saw this was the first match, I was like, okay, this is ESPN really trying to get the viewers in. You should have given them like a 15-minute match. So, I mean, this 5-6 minute match that they gave them, you could have highlighted it a little bit more to show, because like you said, you had great talent, but and those tag team championships on they pushed it aside again, for WrestleMania. So, but fun, good way to enter it. Just I wish it would have been longer.
Yeah, and it's strange too to watch Logan Paul kind of go from the star that's being highlighted that gets to do the cool moments to this year he really has kind of become more of just kind of every week type of wrestler. So he did not have necessarily a big moment for himself this year. He was able to kind of put that over to iShow Speed. Then we had the match between Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu. Unsanctioned match, but again, it was on ESPN, so they had to keep it to a limit. Unsanctioned match without blood. Okay.
No.
Did not happen there. Ultimately, did get a toolbox, some wrench, some chairs. I mean, they did some stuff here. Fatu also had, kind of a cool entrance coming in. He jumped McIntyre during his entrance, but ultimately, Jacob Fatu wins. Great path for him, but it's just, man, Drew McIntyre going from having the world title and have a chance at Randy Orton. They fixed it all to give Cody the title, and now we see, kind of what they were doing there. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride, huh?
Yeah, it is kind of frustrating. And in an unsanctioned match, this one should have. I'm going to complain about it. This one should have been 20 minutes long. Like that's what you do. It was another 9-minute match. Like you said, it was fun, but. I mean, come on. If you go up to go to the bathroom and come back, you miss a match on night one. That's how bad it was. And, Jacob Fatu, he's the younger guy. He's the guy they're trying to build up. So that's good. He beat somebody that a month ago was the world champ and Drew McIntyre. But I don't know what you do with Drew from here. He, like you said, he lost everything. He quit again, came back. Drew, now Jacob beat him. I think maybe you switch him over to the Raw side of it and see, if you can do something with it. But I don't know, man. It's the same storyline with him, right? He gets messed over by his own company, he finally the champion. They take it away from him right before WrestleMania, give him this. I'd call it a throwaway match, and he loses. I'm really baffled. I don't know what you can do other than, he just resigned too, didn't he? So he's kind of stuck with the WWE doing this to him.
Well, and that can happen if you're so good at being a heel, right?
Yeah.
And the payoff is usually putting over somebody else, a face that's coming up. And again, I think that's kind of hurting him. But again, you just think about what could have been for him. And I didn't feel bad about it coming into the night because him and Jacob Fatu, that was kind of one of the more prominent belt feuds going into this. But it just, again, and it got decent reviews overall, but I'm with you. I mean, these guys threw each other off of buildings, so when they're getting to an unsanctioned match, I was just expecting more. Mm-hmm. We got a good match with a little bit of violence and some extracurricular weapons and all that sort of stuff, but just not quite living up to when you're gonna. It was the second ever WrestleMania unsanctioned match, and it's gonna be fairly forgettable, I think. In the long term. So there is that. The women's tag team titles had a big surprise here as Paige returns to team with Brie Bella as Nikki was not able to go in this one. They were taking on the Irresistible Forces, who had a demolition mask, kind of an ode to demolition there coming in. Flair and Bliss entrance with kind of butterfly wing type of deal. Alexa Bliss's was specifically also a nod to Bray Wyatt, right?
Yeah, I think she was a moth.
Yeah, she was a moth. And Flair was more the butterfly there. Bayley and Lyra Valkyrie came out to just Lyra's music, which was strange. And again, Bayley last year didn't get them in the WrestleMania. This year she doesn't get her own music. But in any case, they get. This was a match again, all about Paige. I mean, you're kind of waiting for the hot tag at some point. They do again get the win with the help of Nikki Bella's interference. Also, a cameraman fell down with the shot on live, which was very entertaining. They had to switch the camera angle there for a second. But now the question is the Paige in Brie Bella a long-term thing? I mean, they're tag titles now.
No, it's going to turn into Nikki's hurt right now. She's going to want to, say, hey, I'm actually the Bella twin, the champ. No, I think they're gonna have a feud there. But hey, fun throwback, right? Paige is somebody who, is our age, and she had to retire and came back. I thought that was huge. She just got signed this week, right?
Yeah.
And then they have that happen. But this one, I understand why they did it, and they've been building up Bayley and Lyra for the longest time, I thought, to win this. But I mean, Paige, Brie, Nikki, you have a fun storyline you can kind of go with now.
Yeah. Would have even a couple months ago would have been if you would have told me Paige and Brie Bell are going to come out as tag team titles. I would have said, yeah, there's a very small chance of that happening. But that's what we do have. Excited to see Paige back again. Like you said, did sign this week. You just long for a time when you didn't know the surprise return was coming. Because they thought it might happen here. Of course, you have Raw after WrestleMania, all that sort of stuff where it could have happened. They chose this spot, and I thought it would really help actually for WrestleMania Night 1, as this was one of the highlights for it. The Women's Intercontinental title, Becky Lynch defeated AJ Lee. Becky Lynch had the Wonder Years actually live for her entrance. Of course, referee Jessica Carr was involved here. She did get a little bit physical with Becky even during the match, so kind of an exciting one, exciting enough match. AJ Lee also hit a manhandle slam here, but it wasn't enough. Becky, despite never really getting to that turnbuckle she was trying to expose, that never paid off for her. But ultimately, she did get the win. And then afterwards, AJ Lee mentioned that she'll probably be off TV for a while. So makes sense now. But now, Becky Lynch, a 3-time Intercontinental champion.
Yeah, this is one that I don't know. It was fine. Their entrances were fun. AJ had those little mini AJs and all that stuff, and it was a good match. I thought AJ just signed though, so I'm a little confused. Maybe that's in her contract that she can go out there. But yeah, you're right. Now what does Becky Lynch do? Because she's, seemingly ended her feud with AJ. Bailey, Lyra, like she's had all, she's these feuds with the Intercontinental Championship. So I just don't know where you go from this. But this was a good choice if AJ Lee is going to go away from TV for a while.
Yeah, and I've said it for a while too. Becky with that belt, I mean, she can continue to kind of bring up others. We'll see if they have somebody kind of younger on the roster that goes after that next. Would be interesting. Gunther defeated Seth Rollins. This was, I think, one of the better matches. Most people liked this match altogether. Seth Rollins had an interesting jacket that I don't know where that smoke was coming from, but it just kept coming. He also, this match really kind of came down to Rollins had the advantage. He hit the pedigree and the stomp on the announcer's table. That's when Braun Breaker comes by, hits him with the spear, setting up Gunther for the win. Breaker hits one more spear before it's all said and done. But the only question here is if Breaker's healthy enough to come out and do that, then why didn't we have Breaker and Seth Rollins all together?
I don't know. That's the confusing part of it. Also, I called this one. I called that Breaker would did because I thought I had heard he was cleared, but it doesn't make sense. This could have been a surprise, where Seth Rollins doesn't have a match and Braun Breaker comes out, something like that. And then that spear, like you said, he goes down the whole ramp and spears Seth Rollins. So he's healthy, obviously. Kind of a head scratcher there. But yeah, this Gunther Seth Rollins feud, match I thought was fun. Seth Rollins came out with first his eyes were all blacked out and then they were gone.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I don't know how he did that.
Did he take his contacts out, while we weren't looking or something? But yeah, it's good. But like we said earlier, when we started the show, kind of why did Gunther take this match? And why is he doing this if it's not for Brock Lesnar? Is he trying to get in the division, trying to be the leader of the division now? Something fun like that. But yeah, now, you got Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins. Their feud's going to continue.
When you wonder, was that the favor that Paul Heyman owed him? Was it Braun Breaker interfering there? Very well could be. Again, we got to go quick here. I don't think there's much to say anyways about Liv Morgan defeating Stephanie McCurry. We already talked about her new singer gimmick that's not quite working.
Yeah.
I do think that she's, I think if they throw that to the side, I still think she's one of the best wrestlers, female wrestlers on the roster, certainly. So she can hold that belt. And I think they might be able to run it back. I mean, Victor certainly got a lot, is new to the roster altogether. So we'll see what they do there. I just say, for as much as, again, they kind of had a blood feud kind of going into that. This was a quick match with just kind of your average Judgment Day interference and a victory, 2 oblivions and you're done. So that the in-ring portion was a little bit underwhelming. The theme song and backup dancer was also a choice. Bianca Belair announced her pregnancy after she's been out for a year. Montez Ford wasn't included. What's that all about?
I don't know, man. He hasn't been included in anything in a while, so he's there. But this explains it because they kept saying she had a broken finger, a bad finger. Okay, she's pregnant. Okay, that makes sense, But it was a fun moment. Her and John Cena did that. Once I saw how she was dressed, I'm like, she's gonna say she's pregnant, and she was. So. Her and Naomi, they're having kids at the same time in 20 years, 25 years. Those kids are going to, be the best tag team in the women's division. I'm calling it right now.
There you go. Could definitely see it. And I'm glad you brought that up. I'm looking forward to Naomi's return at some point, too. Then we get to the main event, night 1. Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. Pat McAfee, of course, involved. Blast Cody with the mic. Jelly Roll, though, an elbow, not a big jump, but an elbow, somehow writes off McAfee. McAfee had to be stretchered out of there. There's a lot to that Jelly Roll elbow, I suppose, at this point. The whole match was Randy selling a back injury. They kind of had brought that up on social media, so that was part of it. A lot of blood in this one. If you're looking for blood, this one had it. Cody's eye was absolutely busted open by the end of it. So kind of slow pace, but I thought it an interesting enough match. Like I said, with the second night's main event, of course, they had to do each other's finishers. So you got through all of that. Ultimately, though, Randy RKO Charles Robinson. I think he thought it was Cody Rhodes. And then Pat McAfee comes down as a ref. Orton RKO's McAfee, maybe for not counting quick enough.
Yeah.
And Cody capitalized with the crossroads to get the win. Then afterwards, Randy punted Cody. So kind of strange because it's not the ending of this feud. Maybe writes off Pat McAfee and allows you to do the Cody and Randy thing properly. But still, I think that was the biggest frustration is, this is WrestleMania. This is the big, you're supposed to kind of be the big match here. And you just kind of didn't really know what you got by the end of it because Cody won, but Randy stood tall.
Yeah, it made absolutely no sense. Like you said, they saved it for after. Why would you save it for after WrestleMania? This should have been WrestleMania. Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, once again, a layup, just an alley-oop, just 100% there. And you choose not to do it. And whether Cody Rhodes, again, he's in Street Fighter, so he can promote the movie. You could have both your champs, he and Roman Reigns, on the promotion tour there. But if you're going to have Randy Orton after he loses, get up, RKO him, and then punt him and just destroy him, what hit him with the title, why would you not do that in the match and have Randy win? Like, it just doesn't make sense there. And I'm baffled. I did not like that ending. And I know Randy had to play that back injury, but I felt like that just weakened the match too. Because he wasn't at full strength, and maybe he is hurt. But I thought this was on par with John Cena, Cody Rhodes last year as two of some of the worst main events I've seen in the last couple of years at WrestleMania.
Yeah, it did not get overwhelmingly great reviews again from what could have been turned into a lot of Pat McAfee and Jelly Roll involved, and then kind of a nonsensical way to finish it off there. So we'll see. But at the end of it, we do have Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns as the champions on the men's side, and Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan as the champions on the women's side. So I think that's very strong. Had a lot of title changes. Again, everybody would change a thing or two about WrestleMania, but as always, I can't wait for the Raw after WrestleMania. So this week will be fun. We'll talk about it coming up next week on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket from 9 to 10 here on Sundays. That'll close it out for today's show. Thanks for joining us, and tell your wrestling friends about it.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet, KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
If you're seeking a career with a growing company, Gaina Trucking and Excavating is hiring and looking for additions to their team. Gaina Trucking has a strong team culture, competitive pay, 401ks, and